everybody. Welcome into another edition of the GASOCAST. I'm your host at GASO Linden, joined by at GASO Mass, at GASO Blue. Today is the day. It's finally here. The first day of high school basketball practice. Mass, I'm going to let you talk about this one from a coach's perspective, both of us being former high school coaches. For me, this is when it's the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. for cross-country practice anymore. So just talk about, what does this mean to you as a coach?
Yeah, you got about 10 days until the scrimmage, so you got to get the main things on. You got to, you've been working on some slight offense and some slight defense through the off season, but now you got to get press break on. You got to get, your press on. You got to put a couple baseline out of bounds. You got to, start building into your offense and start adding those quick hitters, and then on defense, how you're going to stunt, how you're going to do different things. But go ahead.
But for me, this means time off. This is where I get to kick my feet up and do some yard work.
Me too. But yeah, you have the building blocks on from the off season, and now you're starting to add to those and become game ready and situationally ready. Something we used to do at the Colony is at the end of every practice, we'd start the situations and have this situation calculator that would spit out something. 3 minutes, 11 seconds left. Starters are down by 7, and they're in the bonus. So, just thinking through all those things. It's a fun time of year. Thanks for letting me nerd out. I appreciate it.
Of course. Couple important dates to keep track of. November 5th, the first day for those scrimmages, and then 2 weekends from now, that's the 11th of November. The season is actually here. Real varsity high school games being played. Excited to get to that. But first, we got a slew of commitments over the past week or so. Caden Holmes going to Metro State, Bobby McWard to Colorado Christian, Jalen Crocker-Johnson going to Arkansas Little Rock, Braden Biggett committed to Midwestern State, Gabe Warren to Rice, Dominic Sestero to Rhodes College, and then Dallas Hobbs going to Mount St. Mary's. Congratulations to all of you on your commitments. Can't wait to see you ball at the next level. So with this being so close to the actual high school season, it's only right that us at GASO release our own rankings that'll drop sometime in the next couple of days, I imagine. Here's the deal. If you disagree with these rankings, because obviously it's not going to be objective, there's no way to list teams 1 through 198.
It wasn't pretty in the office.
No.
There were some definite disagreements and arguments going on this morning. But if you disagree, send us your own. Give us a top 25 for all the classifications.
We challenge you.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Tell us where we're wrong, who we have too low, who we have too high, who's underrated.
Put in the
who's underrated.
comments.
Yeah. I mean, interact with us that way, and hopefully throughout the course of the season you'll be proven right. We're not prophets over here telling you that this team is going to finish as the 7th team in the state, but
yes, we are.
Well, Blue is for the record. Blue is
not me.
No, here. Well, first off, sorry. I'm working on a lack of sleep.
God.
This really, I thought I was about to make some coffee downstairs. I'm like, nope, too late. And then I jump in the middle of I thought there was a cut in the action there, and I threw in my rest time. But I want to tell the high school coaches, this, like we just mentioned, this was not easy. This was more, I think, more intense in working through a ranking of 150 to 200 players, because you're working from a much smaller pool. Mm-hmm. And nothing's ever going to be right. All joking aside, nothing's ever going to be right. These are just our opinions based on a couple different factors here. But at the end of the day, it's really fun to kind of nitpick with everybody, all 5 of us being able to kind of like, no, this needs to move here. This team is better than this one. This is what I saw. Because we saw, I know some were duplicates, like we said before, but there was 250 high school teams that came through the GASO Fall Classic. Mm-hmm. And so we watched a ton of basketball. And so even though it's not going to be right, we hope that our explanation of all of this gives everybody some clarity of how we came up with what we did.
Yeah. So with that being said, based off of these rankings, we came up with a couple of questions at the statewide, at the regional, and at the district levels. So we're just going to kind of pose it to each other and kick it around from there. Starting in 6A at the statewide level, the question really is for this year that we're trying to learn, are there any legitimate contenders to Duncanville on the 6A level? You know, Duncanville's been state champions, but aside from the asterisk COVID year where we didn't play a state tournament 4 years in a row. You know, they dropped their schedule the other day, and, I mean, they're going to be the most battle-tested team by the time the playoffs roll around, probably in the state of Texas in the history in terms of the national. They're playing a prep-level schedule as a public school in Texas.
They will have flown thousands of miles.
Yes. David Peavy's frequent flyer miles are going to be going crazy by December. But I mean, let just open it up to y'all. Who is going to be the contenders this year that can knock them off their throne?
Yeah, and this is no disrespect. Like you said, 4 state championships speak for themselves. But there's always going to be teams. There's always going to create that intrigue. And I say look no further than the other side of the city, in Richardson Lake Highlands. They have a high level talent in Trey Johnson, and they've got a really good team and a really good coach. They proved that they can compete at the TABC while, you know, Ron Holland obviously wasn't there, and that's a big part of what Duncanville does. But at the end of the day, like, you still got to roll the ball out there. Shots still got to go in. And a team that plays together, team defense, and has a game breaker like Trey Johnson who could just very well do enough crazy things. You never know. So I'm going to put Lake Highlands on that level for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's
the obvious one.
Yeah, I think that's all of our choice. And even so, when
they come in at number 2.
Yeah. And even so, with looking at District 11 and Duncanville, they still have to go through and play a Waxahachie group that is going to get better as they get more time on the court with Corey Johnson, first-year head coach there. And, you know, they have a Mansfield Legacy that's in our top 10, which is number, what do we have?
Hold on. 6.
6. So right there, I mean, they're going to be getting, like you said, tested out of state, in state, and in district. And so, you know, I think there's a couple other talking points here that we'll get to about 6A, and because Beaumont United, the 2-time 5A champs, are now in 6A, and maybe that's not going to be as easy for them either, though, when we get into our talking point.
Yeah, for sure. Moving to 5A for this question, I mean, we've hit it over and over in terms of a talking point. 5A is wide open this year. I mean, Beaumont United, who has run that classification the last 2 years, is going up to 6A. Kimball has been there, but they're kind of turning over their roster a little bit. You know, there's 10, 12 teams that have a legitimate case to lift the trophy in San Antonio in March. I mean, Blue, you've highlighted a couple of teams that you like to be that group. Who are you thinking are the contenders for that wide open 5A class?
Well, Colleen Ellison is number 1 in our rankings for 5A, and I think that we've let that's been known since the way too early after TABC weekend, and I just think that they're still rolling off of that. I will mention that they were not ranked number 1 in the TABC rankings, and I get a phone call that that Colleen Ellison team as players, they're not real happy about that.
Yeah.
And it actually has helped the team chemistry over the last several days in getting after it to prove the state wrong. And then you can move into Lufkin, where, you know, JT McManus is more excited this year about the challenges ahead of him, going to regionals last year, and getting that they got blindsided by Kimball. Yeah. And I think through that experience, they wanting to get back there and at least draw and get closer to whoever that they may face, of course, because they want to win. But then you can throw Red Oak in there, coming off a 27-win season. Lancaster, oh man, they look great with Dylan Battie and a couple other pieces of Cade Douglas, and it's a very fun, open 5A where it could change from week to week.
Yeah, and we were all over the board with this, you know. And I'll go to Houston. Talk about Fort Bend Marshall with some of the frenetic pace that they play out with the stud point guard and Jalen Lowe. They have the tools with some other guys like Chris Catchings to really catch fire and make a lot of shots and score 90 points. And Jalen can go off for a 45-point game. Like, you love having those type of scores in your back pocket. And that's a team that I think, you know, I don't know where they are in the TABC rankings. They come in at number 4 for us, but there's a real path for them to meet Colleen Ellison in the regional finals, which, boy, fireworks.
Yeah,
well, also think about this. Ronnie Courtney, who is their head coach, has won state with both Willow Ridge and with Bush. So we're talking about an experienced coach on the sideline there that knows every in and out and how to use his players.
Yeah, fingers crossed we get that Ellison-Marshall game in the regional finals. For me, going to Region 1, Fort Worth O.D. White, we saw them at Mansfield, and they just have prospects that I feel like can get it done in crunch time. Miles Rigsby is kind of the heartbeat of that team in terms of somebody who can score from the wing. We've got 6'11" Nick Gunner who can shoot it. He's skilled. DJ Thomas, another piece. Like these guys, where you look at Region 1, you got a really tough side, and then you go out west, and there's not as many like surefire contenders out there. I mean, if you can navigate through the first half, get to that regional tournament, I mean, ODY, it's a team that you might be looking at as a contender in San Antonio this March. And
DeMarcus James, the head coach of ODY, will not allow, I think, for that 1-4 matchup letdown in round 1 that really took everybody by surprise.
Yeah.
And so I know DeMarcus James is game planning for each game ahead of him, but when it comes to that playoff time, he will be ready.
Yeah. Going to 4A, the real question here, last year, a little bit disappointing that we got the Silsbee Dallas Faith family game as a semifinal, not the actual championship game. But realistically, our question is, can anybody break up that collision course for those two teams to be able to get in there? I mean, Dallas Carter is number 1 in the TABC poll. They come in at number 2 in our rankings. A lot of people have them and Dallas Faith family going head-to-head wherever they would meet in the playoffs, probably in a regional final game if it shakes out that way. But, Mass, who are some contenders that you see trying to break up that duopoly at the top?
Yeah, we've talked about Carter a lot on this, and we think very, very highly of them. So I'm gonna jump and pivot to another Dallas school, and that's Pinkston. When you have two, Dink Pate is a special kind of player, and when you roll out on the court with the best kid on the floor, you always got a puncher's chance at the very minimum. And then they have another guard, Desmian James, who's electric, gets downhill. There was something I tweeted, I stole from Timmons, the alley-oop that I got from them. And it just kind of showed their chemistry. And I don't know, I like the big game chops that Dink provides. And it just wouldn't shock me if that guy is playing in San Antonio making big shots like he always does.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to also one thing that we've talked about is Dallas Carter. Going back to them at number 2, they're going to have more prep going through district than I believe than Faith Family will. And Faith Family always tries to get somebody that's competitive that needs a game or two in January and February just to get them ready. So that's one thing to keep in mind here. But Sulphur Springs, I mean, I spoke about them before. I mean, that's a team that has had success at the 5A level over the last 3 to 4 years, and now they drop down to their original classification when they first entered the UIL at 4A. And so now you're looking at Cordrick Turner and Parker Wisenhunt, Branson Lynn. I mean, these guys are tough. These guys are battle-tested, and they're able to go out there, and they're going to go rebound. They're going to shoot the ball. They're going to share. They get really good chemistry, as we've seen over the two GASO Fall Classics that they've been in. And so it's you just kind of figure that somebody's going to step up, and hopefully we, if there's a surprise out there, hopefully we're covering it right now in our talks.
Yeah. For me, I'll take the other side of this. Who can knock off Silsbee? Last year at the state tournament, that was really the time that Jared Harris announced himself to the state, and then he's gone on to get these high major offers and had a really excellent summer going into the fall. But Houston Booker T might be the team for me that I think matches best up with Silsbee. Chris McDermott, Kenneth Lewis, they've got the length. They've got the ability to play fast and beat Silsbee at their own game if it comes to it. but that would be the team that I'm kind of certain. They clock in at number 5 with our additional 4A rankings. I mean, these guys are good. Like there's no making bones about it. But I mean, it really is going to be the question. I mean, a lot of people have Faith Family Silsbee or Dallas Carter Silsbee in the championship if we're picking it blindly. We're looking for one of these teams, and if it's a dark horse that we didn't mention, tell us who that's going to be. Who's going to be the team that breaks up that championship matchup this year? All right, moving on to our regional talking points. In 6A, it really is who comes out of Houston. Who's the team that's going to represent Region 3 at the state tournament? Blue, I know you like Seven Lakes. We all do.
Yeah.
Talk about their credentials for getting to the state tournament.
Hold on. Blue raced to take Seven Lakes. He was like, I think it's talking about Kansas. And Blue and I did a GASO overtime talking about this region already. So we're going to just expand a little bit more. So Blue, go.
Yeah, well, District 21 is going to be fun to talk about here in a few minutes. But Katy Seven Lakes, and you look at all of the pieces that they have. Shannon Heston is been waiting for his moment as a head coach, and he has this team just clicking. They've also faced some pretty big opponents throughout this fall at the GASO at Jimmy's event, and they I really believe that he's had some time to look at where the wrinkles are, and so. Seven Lakes. I mean, it's a strong it's a strong program, and with a lot of pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll jump in here. Beaumont United. It's hard to, not mention them, quite frankly.
Yeah.
They are super athletic. They play super fast, and they have a game breaker in Wesley Yates. That's a theme with me. I want the best player on the floor when I can have him, and just about every game you're going to have him if you got Wesley Yates. So it's hard to think just with the success and the pedigree. Blue, you were talking about Coach Green earlier. You want that guy on your side when push comes to shove, and they have the coaching, they have the mindset, they know what it takes, and then they have a game breaker that it really is going to come together nicely for them if they take care of business. Linden, Alvin, Shadow Creek, they got some young pieces. Are they ready to take that next step? I think that's the question for them.
Right. It's going to be a question of if these guys can really hit the ground running and build that momentum going into the playoffs, and I think they can. I mean, we saw Bryce Jackson a ton over the summer. Really nice, going to be a sophomore. Really nice player. He's got the length. He can shoot it. He can get to the rim. I mean, you add like Caden Tate, Chase Kane, those front court guys, add them some muscle inside. I mean, they're a team that may not pop out at you from the jump, but I really believe that when these guys are rolling, whenever they've got the a couple of games under their belt and have got it all together, that they're a team that can really make some noise, and that 6A Region 3 may be a dark horse to make it to state. In 5A, I mean, we've talked about this. I mean, we've basically inadvertently all fall, and that's 5A Region 2. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a bloodbath on top of a gauntlet, on top of an odyssey to get to San Antonio. I mean, 5 of the top 11 ranked teams in the GASO rankings were dropping. I mean, just starting out, you got number 2 Dallas Kimball, number 3 South Oak Cliff, number 6 Lancaster, number 9 Frisco Memorial, Dallas Hillcrest at 11. I mean, it really is going to be who can play consistent throughout the entire playoffs. Because if you come in to any playoff game, whether it's by district all the way to regional final, and you have an off night, you're probably going to go home.
Yeah, and it's really just like throwing a dart because I think most of these teams can beat each other on any given night. But I'm going to zero in here on Dallas Sock. I like their balance. They have it from the guards, they have it from the front court. They play with good pace. They defend. They play hard, and they've kind of been on this slow incline over the past few years of just getting better year after year after year, and we're kind of seeing them. It all come together into prominence. So I like the balance that South Oak Cliff provides, but it would not shock me if any of these 5 teams kind of comes out of Dallas. It just wouldn't.
Dallas Kimball has had to face Beaumont United 2 years in a row. I think both of them have been just epic.
Yeah, two of the most fun games in the state tournament in recent memory.
Yes, and so now that they feel that path is cleared a little bit and that they are the team to beat, and there's hundreds of reasons why you should like Kimball. And they're tough. I think that this might be one of their tougher teams, more just basketball rounded. And Nick Smith is very excited, and it's just going to be just going through the season in general. We're going to see if there's somebody else that emerges that we haven't talked about because of the scenario in 5A.
Yeah, I mean, the other three teams there, you got Lancaster with their length and ability to play fast. Drew Steffi scoring at Frisco Memorial if he can really put the team on his back in the playoffs, and then the youth at Dallas Hillcrest where you got Jed Nancha and Mike Williams, those guys leading the way for them if they're ready to take that step up to the big time. For our final segment, we're moving into districts. There are some really, really good teams this year that won't make the playoffs. We're just going to tell you that straight up. The team or the district that we've kind of highlighted being one of the toughest in 6A's District 5. That's the Allen, Denton Geyer, McKinney, Prosper Rock Hill District. I mean, one of those teams is going to have to stay home.
Yeah, this was one of our biggest arguments, earlier. I think 5 out of the 8 or 9 teams made at least our receiving votes list. We have 3 or 4 of them ranked. This was just a full-blown argument this morning. And, you've got stars in this district. You've got really good teams and coaches, and it's just going to be interesting day to day to follow, to see the standings and to kind of see what happens. I don't know who's going to be at the top when I look at it, but I know the team that does come out is going to have some serious feathers in their cap, and it's going to have an opportunity to make a run just because of what they've gone through.
Yeah, and another one in the Houston area, like another good team's going to have to stay home because you got Beaumont United in District 21, Beaumont Westbrook, Atascocita, who was at the state tournament last year, Summer Creek, who's always good, CE King. Like these teams, there's 5 teams that, in any other region, we could talk about a regional tournament contender.
Yeah. I mean, we know that Atascocita is going to be better in February than, they're gathering up these young guys and putting them through a lot with David Martinez and trying to get as much done as possible in a short amount of time. But he'll also groom them just slowly to get through the season. And Atascocita is a program that each kid knows what they are, what's expected of them to be winners. And when you look at, North Shore, Sam Benitez, he's going to be ready every day. There's a few districts like this. And so when there's a lot of depth, there better be a lot of game planning, and the stars better be ready at those games.
And I'll be honest, we can't wait to get down to Houston and see some of these teams.
For sure.
That Houston GASO just got us chomping at the bit.
Yep. Moving to 5A, the one question that we really have, looking at the San Antonio area in 5A, I mean, that 26 5A district where you have Bernie Champion, who made it down to state last year. You have Wagner, who's kind of the perennial powerhouse, who's reloaded. They've got the youth, they've got the depth, they definitely have the talent, but are they ready to take that step is going to be the big question with 26 5A.
Yeah, it's hard not to side with seniority, but when you've got some of the talent that Wagner possesses, it's feasible in your mind. You're like, if this all comes together, wow, look out. And you're going to have to go. Bernie Champion definitely has that target on their back, and you're definitely going to have to go take it from them. But nothing, you can take nothing for granted in this sport. And just because you did something great last year doesn't mean that it's just going to happen for you again. But I loved Bernie Champion's maturity when we saw them this fall. I think they're a team poised to take care of business.
Yeah, the district that really stood out to me in terms of just its overall competitiveness level is 7-5A. And, I mean, you have 8 teams in this district, and there's 8 teams that could feasibly make the playoffs. I mean, you start out Birdville, probably the highest ranked of the bunch. Garrick Norman going to lead the way for them. But then you look past them, you have Argyle up from 4A with some really nice pieces. You have Denton added MJ Thomas to the mix. Grapevine, Richland, Denton Ryan, Lake Dallas. I mean, Colleyville Heritage. There are 8 good teams in this district. There's going to be 4 of those that stay home once the playoffs start in February. Blue, District 13 4A. I know you want to talk about this one. Let's squeeze this one in.
Yeah, we're going to squeeze this in as we coming down the last 30 seconds here. District 13 is Dallas Carter, Pinkston, Lincoln, Hutchins. It's going to be we want to think that Carter's going to be right there, but they're going to have to get through Pinkston, and you got to play a home and away game, and it's going to be a tight race down there.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the GASOCast. Follow us on social at Texas Hoops GASO. Subscribe to the GASOCast on YouTube. Like and turn on your notifications. I'm at GASO Linden, GASO Mass, GASO Blue. Signing off. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next time.